Hey guys, welcome to the stream. It's day 88, part 2, and we have some great news, which is number 1, you can follow us our Kickstarter. Lots of good news actually. Number 2, we are heading for 900 subs, so hit that like and subscribe and we shall soon be there. And finally, and most importantly, I think we have found our FPS issues. Apparently there is a rogue mesh in there with like millions of collisions and bad modelling, which was absolutely destroying our frame rate. So we might be back on top of things. So without further ado, I am going to carry on with some reverse engineering here, and I think what I'll actually do here, right, is I'm going to make it side by side, right. Now might not be ideal, but it might be a bit better, right? So we'll do that, and then we'll do the same with our code. Right? And it might not be ideal, but we can probably get a bit more done like this. So if you like this setup, what am I working on? I'm still reverse engineering. So I'm about to do this into a C++ function. So that's going to be in minus 180.0f. We're going to bracket that. These two are going to be fairly similar. Then it's going to be divided by 180f, and that's going to be bracketed. It can be difficult. You'll see what this part is easy, right? And I'm pointing at it as if you can see me pointing at it, right? But I'm pointing at it. This little function is straightforward. Right? And we're getting that. Okay. Maybe we want this as fmath. Right, and then for this one we just want this. So we copy that and paste that, and that's going to be 2, and there we go. So that's that little bit done. So this is part of a much higher level one, but we're going to go there in a minute. In fact, we're going to go there right now, and it's this here, right? So you can see that this isn't quite as simple Okay. Now the thing is, we've done all this, so we've done this part to get to this value here, okay, which is this here, okay. So we've got this value here, and I think what we'll do is we'll say return chain value for this, right? Because we kind of know that this is a chain value. It's a chain of calculations, so that's fine. So what we'll do now is we'll go back here and we shall actually do that. We'll copy that and we'll call it long chain value. Right. And this is curve float value. Okay. So we'll do that. Then we'll create our declaration. To be fair, it's interesting and hard to start with, but then becomes a chore as you're doing it, right? So what we're doing is passing in this float, okay, and then we're doing lots of stuff with the float, okay. So it's sometimes easier to hear to work backwards, but we'll see how it goes, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say float temp and we'll just call it chain value. Okay, that's so we can store it in a temporary place. What is your C++ level? Crap. I am crap. I am crap. CMPTR tube. I am not very good at the way C++ works, but what I can do is work on the logic, right? So if there's lots of calculations, if there's case statements, select statements, if statements, arrays, blah blah blah, I can work it out. Okay, but I'm not inherently going to sit down and write a C++ program because, you know, it's all the little syntaxy things like and include files and which functions to use in certain instances. I get better, right, as I do this. Like, I hadn't used it for a year and then I came back and did a bit of it for the past few days and it's beginning to come back to me, so I'm beginning to make, you know, I'm not, as I said, I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination, but for example, I can take what I'm doing here is I'm taking this and this and this and basically turning it into a C++ set of functions. Right? But you got to remember, right? tube that I've been programming for 40 years, right? So, as I said, C++ is the language that I've used the least. I've got more experience in Basic, Visual Basic, C#, all your SQL stuff, all of that, web stuff, ASP, blah blah blah, right? So the logic comes to me, it's straightforward, right? It's just getting it into the right syntax for C++. And as I said, I had about a year break for the last time I used it, and I forgot it all, but I'm beginning to get back into the groove as far as putting some functions together to... And this is all about... well, this isn't mine anyway, right? I'm reverse engineering this. This is from a marketplace asset, right? But it is fairly hefty on calculations. So what I'm doing is basically turning all the obvious, straightforward calculations into C++ functions to give... I know it's probably not going to be very much, but the thing is that it's running on tick, right? So it's running 60 times a second, or whatever your frame rate is. So basically I'm getting a speed boost every single tick, or at least I should. Right now, and plus the fact that doing it with this and just doing it with... Here's my approach, right? This is my approach, and this is for quit abandoned as well, and for you CMP TR tube, computer tube, right? Is if I start doing this, then I add little bits to it, I'll gradually be able to improve and actually be able to do stuff with C++. Now that's not to say that I haven't done anything with C++, but a lot of the stuff I've done I've forgotten, right? But this is gradually coming back to me now. Right, so what we'll do in the first instance is we'll break this down, right? We'll break this down and we'll basically build it back up. Right, so basically what we're saying here is chain value is going to be this first part, okay? So chain value is actually going to be f math doobie mod f open brackets curve float value comma 1. Okay, so that is the equivalent to this node in C++. Okay, and what I do is just gradually build it up, right? So if you're doing this, try to do the same, right? So what we've got to do now, and the reason this is red is because we haven't stuck our semicolon in, right? And didn't worry about that, right? That's going to be 1.0f. Right, now I'm kind of worried, I'm kind of not worried, but I'm kind of worried. So what I would normally do here is build this to see if this goes away, which it should. Right, because we can see we've used this, well that's actually a different thing, but we used it further up. Right, it doesn't like mod f, right, so we used it up here a bit, and here it's here. Right, and it's that and that, so that should be okay. It's f mod, it's not mod f. Duh. This is what I mean. not being 100% familiar with the so syntax. Right, so what I'll do is I'm going to bracket that, and then basically we say minus 5, minus 0.5, minus 0.5f, then we bracket that whole thing. Now we could go and do this in one big huge long calculation, which I might do. Yeah, I mean, doing other languages certainly helps, but then C++ is a bit out there because it's so kind of old and kind of antiquated. Right, have I done this wrong? Is this like F mod? Yeah, it's not a capital, right? Yes, I'm used to using languages that would fix that for you, so you wouldn't need to worry about it. But there we go. So now we've got the absolute of that. Now, I would be tempted at this point to just go absolute of that. Is this F math again? We'll do that. Yeah, it's not something I've ever really worried too much about. Right, at this point I would probably just maybe even split this up. Right, I would maybe split it up, and then once I've split it up I would add it back together at the end as one statement, but there's no point in making it intentionally difficult for yourself, right? So from that point of view, we'll just go multiplied by 2. Right, and then we obviously do that. Right, so we get that back again. AI is something that's never really interested me, to be fair. I'm sure it's really interesting, but right, so we're going to do 1 minus, right, and that gets us to here, and then we're going to minus 0.5f, then we're going to branch this out, then we're going to multiply that by 2, and then, believe it or not, we clamp this. And there's our little clampy boy. We open the brackets, we've got our first one, which is that, then 0.0f and 1.0f. Right, super smashing great. So that, these two are basically taking care of all of that. Okay? And we're going to have to add it to our outputs for this, because this is then going to have to get plugged in to here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go back. Well, actually, you know what, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build it. Quit Hyperloop's nonsense. Yeah, it's like the Elon Musk thing that is never going to happen, that was actually proposed about 100 years ago, and everybody realised, yeah, that's not going to work. Right, so what we're doing here is we're getting our calc this. Yeah, of course it's not going to work. It's complete nonsense. So that's going to be float, and I know I'm kind of going off. And it's going to be computer tube, don't listen to him. Who cares what he says? Right, so this is chain value. Right, so once you get a bit older, you'll realise, or you'll see a bit easier what is complete nonsense and what isn't. It becomes a bit more apparent. Right, so we're getting long chain value. Okay. And is this where I forget what the heck I'm doing? Probably. Yeah. So we're going to do chain value. Right, so we're going to set it here. So we're going to say chain value equals, that's return coverage, and we're going to be running this, right? So we're going to be doing that, then we're going to be doing that, and then we're going to be doing that, then we're going to be doing that, and then we're going to put a semicolon in there, and then we're going to say build you, and then we're going to test it and see what fancy number comes out, and hopefully it's the right one, because debugging this is pretty much not much fun. Right, but I'll take it that's built, right? So I'm going to do a save all, right? And then we get our chain value, which is super cool. And then we put a breakpoint here, and we press play. Right, now we're going to get this rotation in a minute or two, don't worry, but what we want to see is this number here, and apparently it's 0, which is fantastic. Right, so basically we're going to have to print this out to see what this value is. Now why it's 0 I don't know, but that is probably a legitimate number. But we're going to have to find out, so we're going to copy this. Wait a minute. Have I done this right? Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Right. so we're okay with that. Yeah, a lot of surprise. People can surprise you. Computer tube with either how intelligent they are, or vice versa, with how stupid they can be as well. It's pretty amazing. People who you thought were smart, but when you get to adult life and that, you realise that they're actually not very smart at all, and vice versa. I don't know why I'm doing that. I've got in the habit of doing that. Oh, everybody works at their own speed, so I wouldn't worry about it. People can be doing special education for all sorts of reasons, doesn't necessarily reflect on their intellect or their learning capabilities. It might be like a sight issue that, you know, or a colour blindness issue or something that they've just not identified that makes normal learning difficult for the person in that position. It's believe it or not, or well, yeah, I was never in like, right, the way it worked, this is probably completely weird and it wouldn't happen these days, right? But way back when I was in school, the way, right, you went up through primary school, right, which was up to your like 11, right? I can't remember what it's called in America. I don't know obviously what it's called in Thailand, right? But then you went to the, you know, high school, or in our case what we called academy, right? And basically your first 2 years, right, you did certain subjects, and then in your third year you got basically ranked, and you got split into French and German. So one set of classes would go down like French. You know, you'd obviously be doing history, geography, maths, blah blah blah, right? But one set of pupils would go down the French side, and the other would go down the German side, right? And then the classes were ranked, so you had like the top French class and the top German class. So that would be all like the, well, in those days, what you would call the SWATs, right? And I wasn't in the top class or anything. I was in the second French class, and I was completely rubbish at French, right? But there's reasons behind that, which was basically I missed the first few weeks of French, and by that time they would start learning right. But other than that, I've never failed an exam, but I've never aced an exam either, right? The only exam I could ace was arithmetic, because I can just do it all in my head, right, which helps when I'm doing all this crap. Right, but I'm not great at maths, because I never went past like high school. I never went past high school for anything. Right, so anyway, that was a wee sidetrack there. Right, so that built okay. So now if we press play, right, we haven't done anything to this, but it's coming up with a 0, right? Which isn't necessarily an issue, but what we've got to check is that we press resume, and that is coming up with something which is a wee bit, well, there might be, okay, right, we're going to stop that for now. I think that's coming off another, function, right? Yeah, like this one. Right. Well, nobody's better than anybody. Everybody's got their strengths and talents, although I don't believe that kind of either. Everybody has got their strengths and talents. But, you know, there are people who obviously are just never going to have anything of note, shall we say, as a strength or talent, right? There's some people that are never going to learn a musical instrument, never going to be a mathematician, never going to be a computer programmer, never going to be a painter, right? But that's not to say they can't do anything. But then you'll get people who can't do anything but can play musical instruments like a genius, right? It's just the lucky dip of your DNA. Right, this 0.94 thing is worrying me. Right? Well, by now, quite abandoned, you'll know if you're going to be an artist by now. That's for sure. Right, now the interesting thing is, I'm going to run this again, right? We're going to check the code in a second, but this here, we're going to enable that breakpoint again. Right? And that's 0. That's 0.94. And that's 0. Right? Right, so this is weird. Okay, right. So let's check for any other printouts. Right, now I'm going to show you something that's probably the problem, right? And it brings us back to the very same issue that we had before. Okay. And it is that number. This is the only screen debug that we've got, right? Now, if you remember, right, this here is the number that we actually want to print out. Okay. Now, we might need another bracket there. Right? So, if this does not bring back 0, here's my thinking, right? This is bringing back 0. Okay? We can prove that, right? So, if this brings back anything other than 0, then this fmath fmod is not the same as modulo, right? So it might actually be modulus, which is a slightly different thing. But it still gives us the same problem. Right. Okay, press play. Right. Disable breakpoint, go. Right, you see that? That's not right, that's not the same thing. That is not the same thing. Well, that's a bummer. Right. The interesting thing here is that was just knocked together in 5 minutes, just for a laugh. Just to have something that just didn't open the screen, just didn't have, you know, like everybody else does, the game starts and it just appears. And the actual thought was a cinema, you know, when the curtains open. Right. You know, I'm wondering something here, right? Let me try something. What I want to know, I might be able to get away around this, right? If I do that, right? And I say make, right, I'm going to stop this. What you mean is alert? Interpolation. Linear interpolation. It's not an interpretation. Right, so make literal float. Right, and I'm going to add, this is just as like a test, right? And I want to know what this actually gives us back. Okay. So I'm going to save that and press play. Right. And I'm going to add my breakpoint. Right. And what I want to know is this number here. Huh? Okay, okay, you're going to play like that, are you? Right, okay. We're going to play a different way then. We're going to play 1.22 right on the top there. What are you going to do about that, eh? We can play dirty as well, Unreal Engine. We can do that. Right. Now, what's that number? It's still 0. Right. So let's do 5.33. It appears this just brings nothing back, whatever you put in there. It just, for some reason, I don't know why. 0. What? I mean, what? I mean, seriously? Right guys, I'm going to have a quick break. So, if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. So, check out the description for other stuff, and I'll be back in 5. Don't go anywhere. Alright, we're back. Right, new plan. We're going to plug this back in. And we're going to use a print string. Because I'm not convinced that that is 0 under whatever circumstances it's trying to tell me. I'm not buying it. I just ain't buying it. Right? Right. So that's plugged in. Yeah, I've ran out of cigarettes, so I didn't have a cigarette, so I just walked outside and then walked straight back in again and went, oh crap, I've no cigarettes. Which I don't condone smoking, guys. Don't start smoking, for the love of God. It's the worst thing you can do. Right. We're going to take out our... we don't need to take that out. We know our yellow one is coming from the C++, and we know the blue one is coming from our blueprint, right? And yeah, look at that. They're both little liars. Right, because that is that number. You utter little thing. Right, so basically I was right. This doesn't actually output 0 like it's saying. Just try to not do any of that stuff. It's not going to help you in the long run. Right? It doesn't do you any favours whatsoever. So this can now go... Code beating me? No, it's not beating me. It's beating itself. Right? Because it was lying over here. Right, it was saying that this was coming, when I broke it and I went over here, it was saying it was nothing, but it was actually 0.94, so this was actually correct. And funnily enough, basically once it goes through this whole thing, it just basically comes out exactly the bloody same, right, because 0.94 is actually the number of the curve float value. Right, so basically this was right all along, right, as chain value, right. So the only reason that it appears to be beating me or making me, it's the usual. My logic is fine. It's either Unreal Engine or C++ itself that is giving me an issue. Right. Now, back to the point. Our next thing is we need to calculate this rotation. I'm afraid that was kind of the opposite. I thought running was completely boring. I could run after a ball all day playing football, but I couldn't just run. I absolutely hated just running for the sake of running. But hey ho, everyone to their own. Right, so we're going to have to calculate this value here. So basically we're going to pass this in, right, again over to here. Right, now this is going to have a long list of stuff coming in, but at the end of the day all they've done is done it over a huge space. Right, so let's calculate. Right, what have we got to calculate here to calculate this rotation, right? What have we got to actually do? Right, so we're making rotation for X, which is fine. We're doing alert for that, which is fine. We're doing a divide by 90, which is fine, from northern latitude, which we probably don't have, but that's fine. And a few more calculations, and they're all coming off this get float value. I think I'm about 120 soaking wet. Not weighed myself in a while, mind you, but I would go for about 120 soaking wet. No, wait a minute. Not 120, can't be that. That'd be 120 pounds, by the way, no kilos. I'm gonna go, it's 14 pounds to a kilo, right? No, 14 pound to a stone, right? 2.2 pounds to a kilo. Right, so I would go, I'm probably about 12, 13 stone at the most, which would make it about, let's say, 144, 168, 168, so that would be about 88 kilos or something, 84, something like that, mass or more or less, mass or menos, more or less. Right, anyway, we need to pass in this actor right vector, right? So let's just get that sod done. We could split this up as well. Right, so in here we're going to have, we've got two more variables to put in. Right, now we always knew we were going to have bucket loads of these, so I'm not really worried about it. Right, so it's calc moon intensity, this one here. So what we'll do Yeah, I'll type faster than your computer tube because I can actually type. I can touch type. I don't need to look at the keyboard. Learned it many years ago, about 40 years ago. Right, so we've got float. What was it? We'll call it N latitude. You probably don't understand computer tube. Like, I'm a trained typist. It's one of the things I actually have a qualification in, by bizarre coincidence. So the other one is V right, okay, which is a vector. So F vector. These are all just straight up ends. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy that. There's no such thing as words per hour. That's not how it's done. It's words per minute. And then it's calculated not on words per minute, it's words per minute you can do without mistakes. And words per minute then is not actually the number of words, it's actually 5. It's calculated as 5, the average number of words when you type, or sorry, the average number of letters in a word is 5. So therefore, let's say 5 words per minute would equate to 25 keystrokes, right? Including space bars, because obviously it's 5 words per minute, right? So I've qualified to 30 words per minute. Now remember, that's with one mistake. Okay? So if you make one mistake, or sorry, if you make 2 mistakes, then you fail, right? I'm qualified at 30 words per minute. Right, so I can type at 30 words per minute, so that's 150 keystrokes per minute with one mistake. Okay? And that's typing anything. That's typing a letter, typing code. Well, code's harder actually, because you never used normal just text. But yeah. But there was some people when I was at college and we were doing that. So there was some of the girls could do about 60 words per minute. So that was like 300 keystrokes per minute with one mistake. And even that isn't fast enough for dictation. Right? You would have to be about, I think it was between 90 and 120 words per minute to actually type at the speed somebody could talk, which is why basically nobody types a dictation really. Like in court or something like that, they have to use nah, you're not 85 per minute. 85 keystrokes. Aye. You're probably not even that. Right? As I said, you can tell me numbers all you like. right? Until you sit and show me your pitman typing actual qualification, then you can't type. Or at least you can't prove it. Right, so where was I? Yeah, I was doing the declarations, wasn't I? And then you sidetracked me. Right. So we're doing that. I was going to say I don't know if they even have that stuff anymore, but they will, because it'll be on word processors. Because I'm pretty sure we did it on I can't remember if we did it on both. I can't remember. It's 40 years ago, right? But I'm pretty sure the Pitman one was on a standard, like, metal typewriter, right? Which is why you couldn't make mistakes. I think we did a separate one on, like, a word processor, right? Because obviously you don't make mistakes. You can basically, you know, delete and stuff, right? But on an actual typewriter, you can't. Well, there was ways around it. You had Tipex paper and Tipex and stuff like that. But if you started having to do that all the time, then basically you would be down to like 5 words a minute if you weren't accurate. But yeah, these were all real things back in the day. These things were very sought after. Like people that could type, and especially people that could type really fast. And there were people who could type really fast, I can assure you that. And it's probably the one thing. It's probably one of the things that ended up being one of the most helpful. Right? Just a handy thing to be able to do. Right? Because what happens is you end up, if you're typing in Discord or whatever, you can basically type much faster. Well, I can type much faster than everybody else. So I can have about 3 conversations at once. And I'm waiting on everybody replying. So it's one of the skills that I learned that at the time, I probably hated it. I probably hated learning it, right? Yeah, but remember guys, I don't stream just for the sake of showing development, right? Which is why I do a lot of work offline. Right, that's when I'm concentrating and just doing the work. Whereas when I stream, I don't mind talking to you guys and just telling you stuff. That's kind of the point. It breaks it up, and although I get less done, it makes it a bit more interesting. So from that point of view, I don't mind at all. So we're going to put our northern latitude in here, and basically, we've got a forward vector. We have. Wait a minute. Wait a sodden goddamn minute. Is this what I think it is? I bet you it's different now. I bet you it's slightly different, right? I think we do this calculation somewhere else, right? But I think it's slightly different because one is the sun and one is the moon. So probably one of them is multiplied by like 180 degrees or something. Right? But no you worry. Oh, it's not really a motive, it's just... Yeah, I wouldn't call it a motive. I would call it something else. Don't know what, but... It's just something that keeps me motivated, and the main thing is to move forward. What a coincidence that I'm typing that in there. As I said, if I do this for twice a day, for 2 hours a day, then I can't avoid doing 4 hours, and you kind of can't avoid making progress. Right, it's kind of hard to not make progress at all if you're doing something 4 hours a day. And then add on top of that the fact that normally I'm working in between, so that I'm not working on the same thing when I come back at night to do it. Then that pushes you forward as well. So I'm pretty sure ComputerTube hasn't seen the actual game yet. Did I? Oh, probably did. I must have cut and pasted that, copy and pasted that twice. Yeah, I must have got it lost in there. Not to worry. Right, so refresh nodes and forward goes in there. Now, I am wishing I did do this in a slightly different way, right? I'm kind of wishing that I did this as an actor blueprint that was basically the parent of the day-night cycle blueprint. Right, well, let's show you some stuff then, shall we? Right, so this is the test map that shows a lot of mechanics, right? So basically, we can bring up that. Okay, and we can pick up stuff, and we can light this fire, and you'll notice the temperature go up, the clock's moving, everything's going, fire's going, temperature starts going up, right? Depending on how close we are to the fire, temperature goes up. Then we can go over here, we can pick up stuff, We can eat it or whatever. We can craft stuff. Right. We can store stuff. Right. That's just an idea of some stuff. Right. We can get our bow out and shoot it. I don't know what you mean by outliners. Oh, highlighters for... Right, so now that you've shot that, you can basically skin it. That gives you your meat. Okay. You can go through the snow and it basically makes tracks for you. Right. You can climb up ladders. That's not quite right, but yeah, that'll work for now. The animation on that's a bit weird because we haven't got a very good get to the top animation. Oh, look at that. She's not falling down again. Never mind. We're not going to worry about that for now. Right now, if we bring in a monster, right, we'll put him over here a bit, right, right, so we can pull out around, and it goes on fire and dissolves. Okay, cool, isn't it? Right, there's something weird about this. Right. I know what it is. I know what it is. Don't worry about that, guys. That's me working on the start of the game mechanics. Right, but yeah, pretty cool, huh? Dismiss that for now. And then we can go to the actual maps. We think we have solved our frame rate issue. So, according to my colleague, we've got this running at 60 frames a second, and in some places, well, we've got it from, I'm not sure what he said. He said between 70 and 120 or something. It does take a second or two to load it to start with. Right, so it's not loaded in yet at this point, right? Some of it is, some of it isn't. You can see there that it's not loaded everything yet. And first time I do this, it does take a while. And in fact, I shouldn't really do it like that, right? What we're going to do is we're going to pull that out and we're going to run it standalone. Okay, quit abandoning, catch you later. And it's not the speed of the plants, it's just the material. It's just an instance, the foliage is just an instance mesh with a material that appears to move, but actually doesn't. Right. So you'll see this gradually loading in here. Obviously, I need to do a little bit of tweaking on the start for when the game is actually loaded. Right. And as I said, it does take a minute the first time you do it. Then after that, it does take a wee while, but not anywhere near as long. It ain't like, what was that game that took ages? No, the plants really don't move, it's the material that makes them appear to move. Right, and because the material is handed off to the GPU, then and normally with games machines and computers built to go, process graphics, then it doesn't actually affect performance, right? Like, I'll show you in a minute, right? That's how foliage works. Now, optimization means a totally different thing. Right, this is taking a while. You should see trees appear right beside me. Like a little bush and a big tree. Right, what's going on here? And she shouldn't just continue walking either. There's something weird going on here. There's something weird going on. See how there's these trees right next to me and stuff? That's where I start, right? So what I was saying was I was expecting these trees to pop up beside me. But they didn't. So I don't know what my colleague's done, if he's done anything. But whatever it is, it ain't working. Or it's taking a while to load in for the first time, so there's that. Right, so this is not... Well, this is normally what it looks like to start with when we start it for the very first time. Probably wasn't a good idea to start it for the very first time since God knows when. But hey ho, it's done now. Yeah, my CPU tends to make things run faster as well, as rather than using my usual hamster. If I use the CPU, it definitely runs faster than a hamster. Right, well, this doesn't seem like it wants to run. I might have to do a full compile or something like that. But on that note, guys, I'm going to leave it. Right, because that looks as if it's basically hung or something. Alright. Is it running? I don't know, to be quite honest. It didn't appear to be. But I'm not 100% sure. This is the first time I've actually ran the main map since I did a fetch on the project, so for a while. So I'm kind of not surprised at a longer load time, but it shouldn't have been taking that long. That was just a bit silly. Right, but I have added C++ classes and all sorts of stuff, so it might have been a better idea to compile everything, close it down, then open it up again fresh and try it that way. But hey ho, never know. But it was kind of running on the... It doesn't matter anyway, you guys have seen this, don't... Ah, wait a minute. Tube hasn't seen this, has he? Right, shut down. Shut down. Right, this is weird. Right, see, it done it there. No, it didn't. God knows what's going on with that. I'm going to do a save all. Ah, okay, we'll cancel then, but we're not in play because you won't let me play. You're being foolish. I'm going to close that. I am expecting an Unreal Engine crash here, so I am preparing myself by closing all this other stuff down. I got it to close, right? I actually managed to get it to close. Right, we're going to do that. And we'll try one more time. We'll try an editor. And Screen Apple, we think we've solved the frame rate issues. It was a weird rock issue where there was one rock or a couple of rocks that were basically really badly made and had like a gazillion collisions on them. Right, is this going to compile or what? Apparently not. Right. It's not for it. It's not exactly tripping the light fantastic. What's the project, Screen Apple? Right, did that complete there? I'll take it did. Right, I'm just going to run it in the editor. That's fine. Right, if this locks up, basically. Alright, Screen Apple, how's it going? Right, we've actually loaded up this time, kinda. We're not totally loaded up because as you can see there's no sea yet, but we are kinda loaded up. There's no steps up there either, which kinda gives it away. Now this is the start of it. Right, and we should see a couple of boats. But they've probably not loaded in either yet, so we're gonna have to wait. Right, it doesn't seem to have loaded up 3.1. I believe it's 3.1 or something. Right, where did the Russian go? I'm guessing that's why, well, see it's not loaded in everything yet because there should be steps there, right at that part there. So I'm not buying it. Right, but we could go just to show ComputerTube a bit of. Right, you see that? Tried to load something there? Don't know what it did load. Right, but this is what the world looks like. Right. Right, so you can basically do things like that. And yeah, nice world. You can see her breathing and stuff. So on that guys, if you guys have enjoyed the stream, hit like and subscribe. I'm going to be back tomorrow at 2 PM Central as usual. We might have a super optimized game because we have been working on lots of things to try and optimize it, and while we weren't actually optimizing it, or we were optimizing it, we still had problems because of this rock issue, which seems to now be fixed. So we should have an update on that soon. So I'm going to probably carry on with this C++ malarkey, and we'll see where we get with that. But oh yeah, that's where you start, isn't it? Is it? Yeah, it is. I think it is. Right, but something's still not quite right. No, that's not where you start. Right, but something's still a bit weird going on, so I'm going to restart Unreal Engine because it looks like it's having one of its little moments. So, thank you guys for watching. Hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed that, and check out the description. We have links to our Kickstarter, brand new. You can follow us on that. You don't need to do anything for the moment. It's not live yet, but you can follow us. There's the game's Discord server, which you're welcome to join. My personal Discord server, you're welcome to join. Patreon, where you can throw me a couple of bucks. My previous game on Steam, which only costs you $1. There's a link to that. And finally, there is a link to the website. So, thank you for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye bye for now.